Now, when Hyundai first showed us this vehicle late last year, it really just shocked the automotive media and consumers alike. The name Veloster, at least to me, implies something aggressive, youthful, and just interesting. Now, the design of the vehicle is definitely interesting, and it definitely matches the name. Now, unfortunately, with that aggressive design, it kind of sets forth an expectation of pretty fun driving dynamics. So, does this vehicle's performance match the look? Well, let's find out. Now, Hyundai's all-new Veloster is definitely a striking vehicle when you first see it in person. Now, from certain angles, the vehicle can look like a coupe or a four-door sedan. From the driver's side, obviously, it looks like a coupe. It looks like a low-slung sports car. That's where things get interesting. As you go around the vehicle, you start to think, oh, okay, the back looks like a hatchback, and it is. It opens with a hatch. It's got this really nice twin-exit integrated exhaust system as well. Now, coming to the passenger side, that's where things get weird. You can see here there's an additional portion of sheet metal. There's a different B-pillar on the passenger side, and there's actually a door over there. Now, this concept is not necessarily new. Saturn first introduced it with their Ion Coupe several years ago. The Mini Cooper Clubman has the same thing. What makes this one more original in Hyundai's favor is the fact that you can open that back door without having to open the front door, unlike the other, suicide doors in the other vehicles. Now, the styling of this vehicle, I actually really like it a lot, especially in this blue color. This particular one that I have only has about 4,400 miles on it. It's a base model. The Veloster has two upgrade packages. There's the style package, which adds 18-inch wheels and fog lights, and the technology package, which essentially adds nav, and then the panoramic sunroof and push-button start. This blue color looks especially great as well. You can see the style of this vehicle is just what draws buyers in, and I think it's the reason why, Hyundai, whoever designed this vehicle, did a really good job in knowing what the younger generation Y buyers definitely like in terms of style for the vehicle, and it's been a hot seller for the brand. Now, looking at the interior, the Veloster's interior kind of sort of matches the exterior. It's got somewhat of a motorcycle-inspired interior, just like what Hyundai likes to call it. And the only really color combination you can get on the vehicle is black. There's not really any lighter colors you can get. Now, you can see even the base Veloster has that nice touchscreen radio system, and here's the key for the vehicle. A proximity smart access key is available on vehicles with the tech package, but this one doesn't have it, of course. The door chime sounds just like Toyota. I'm surprised Hyundai. Actually, Hyundai's been copying that in their latest models. And you can hear that is the startup of the 1.6 liter direct injection 4-cylinder from the Accent. And you can see here's the interior of the Veloster. It all looks pretty stylish. It definitely, like I said, matches the exterior in terms of looks. Unfortunately, this is a cheaper car, and it shows in the interior. It's got a all hard plastic dash. Don't expect to find, soft touch materials. What kind of disappointed me the most is the fact that, here's the door panels. Yes, it's hard plastic. This right here is hard plastic as well. They should have at least padded this just because this is where your elbows are going to rest. And of course, the grading on the dash is not very nice either. I don't really like it. It's kind of cheap. This grading is a little bit better, but this is pretty cheap. And you can see touchscreen radio and XM satellite radio is standard on this vehicle, so that's pretty nice. There's kind of like a little eco coach. The touchscreen response in this vehicle is pretty good. I must give Hyundai, credit for a pretty responsive touchscreen. You can't get dual zone or automatic climate control at all, even on the top trims. And if you have a top trim, the actual engine starter button will be right here. Now, this vehicle is also introducing Hyundai's first dual clutch automated manual. They call it EcoShift. And you can see here, it's kind of it's just got your traditional PRND. It's got a sport mode. It's also got paddle shifters on the wheel. Coming to the steering wheel, it's actually one of Hyundai's nicer steering wheel designs. I usually complain that Hyundai steering wheels are pretty ugly, but this one actually doesn't look half bad. I like the gauges. Coming to the center console here, you have your iPod USB hookup right there where you have to use Hyundai's proprietary cable. The glove compartment is a pretty decent size. It's damped, it's not lined with felt. Cup holders right here, and then you have 2-tier storage, which is pretty nice. There's no power outlet, or your aux port is over there, so keep that in mind when you're looking for that power outlet. Now, of course, getting into the rear seat requires you to come to the passenger side, as there's no door on the driver's side. You can see this is what the passenger seat all the way back. First of all, when you're stepping in, you need to make sure you duck your head really well, because I'm really short. I'm 5'7", and my head pretty much will hit the ceiling. Anybody's head will. And Hyundai forgot to, notice a couple things back here. The rear seat passengers are pretty much, exposed to the sunlight. There's like a little shaded area here, but when the sun's kind of beaming in, it'll probably roast the heads of your rear seat passengers. In terms of visibility, of course, it feels very cramped in here. This feels like a coupe. There's just that weird access door. The seats themselves, very low on thigh support. You can see this is with the seat all the way back. My knees are touching this, which even if I come over here, there's really not much leg room. Expect this really to mostly be a two-seater, and basically just put the people that you hate back here. Coming to the door panels, they are the same hard touch plastic materials as the front seats. And this window actually goes down, but the other window over here does not. So like I said again, 3-door vehicle design. Now thankfully the Veloster is a hatchback, so it does help a little bit with the practicality. The opening is pretty large. There's not much really in terms of space. It's probably comparable to like other small hatchbacks like a Ford Fiesta, but overall it's a nice design, and I actually do like the styling of the back end of this vehicle. And then of course under the hood, this is where you'll find the biggest disappointment for this vehicle. Essentially it's the same 1.6 liter GDI gasoline direct injection engine from the Accent. If you pull away this slick styling, this vehicle is mostly just a Hyundai Accent underneath. Here are the numbers: 138 horsepower and 123 foot-pounds of torque. Decent numbers. I mean, it gets a really good fuel economy, and for people who are like, first-time buyers, it's probably enough speed. There is a turbo model that's out right now, which has basically the same motor with a turbo bolted to it, making 201. I don't have the turbo here, so let's take a look at how this Hyundai's new 6-speed dual-clutch drives with the GDI engine. All right, so for the moment you've been waiting for, does Hyundai's Veloster perform the same way that it looks? Well, let's find out. The one thing I don't like is the way the engine sounds like when it starts. It still sounds like a cheap lawnmower from the 1950s. It's the same nasty starter noise that I've heard in the Hyundai Accent before. But of course, enough about that. Driving the Veloster is actually pretty easy. The visibility from the front is actually not bad. This pillar here is a little bit on the thick side, but the car's very small. It doesn't really, it's pretty easy to judge where the front of the vehicle is. The one place where there is a big problem is in the back. Of course, with that split window in the back, it's never really been a good design. The Veloster's main competitor, the Honda CR-Z, has the same problem. But I'm going to probably compare the two a little bit throughout the test drive, just because the CR-Z literally is probably the Veloster's main competitor. See, Hyundai's first dual clutch automated manual is definitely a good effort. They definitely have some work that they need to do. It almost doesn't feel like a dual clutch. It feels just like a regular automatic. It feels like it has a torque converter. The vehicle does roll back ever so slightly when you first are switching from the brake to the gas pedal. And in terms of the shifts, they're a little bit slow. Let's try it in the manual mode here. There's no sport mode. That's another weird thing, is this should have a sport mode, but it doesn't. It has these cheap feeling paddle shifters, which are kind of slow to actually downshift the vehicle. And it really just feels like a regular automatic. I don't really like the way they've tuned it. They're going to use a dual clutch, or make it actually feel like a dual clutch, not make it feel like an automatic that is really lazy to shift. In terms of everything else, the steering in this vehicle is another problem. This is my biggest complaint with Hyundai's. The steering is just numb, totally devoid of feel, doesn't inspire any confidence. It just feels like the same steering that was lifted out of the Accent to me, and they really need to tune it. I know that the turbo model is where they've actually tuned it. This steering is just too light for my taste. For a sporty car like this, it shouldn't be this light. The turbo model I've read has definitely added the heft, but it still lacks the feel that Hyundai's electric power steering still doesn't give you. Now, in terms of the ride quality in this vehicle, it's okay on this smooth pavement. However, it's got a torsion beam suspension in the back, so that does affect the ride quality a lot. Don't expect this car to be That's the one thing about the Veloster is do not cross-shop it with a GTI, a Focus ST, a Mazda Speed3. This is a class below it. It's based off of a subcompact car, the Hyundai Accent, while the other cars that I mentioned are based off of compact cars, which have an independent rear suspension. This is no hot hatch. Even with the turbo model, it's not a hot hatchback. This is a sporty, you know, avant-garde looking vehicle that offers something new in terms of looks, but the driving dynamics just really will disappoint the driving enthusiasts out there, unfortunately. Now this one has the smaller 17-inch wheels, so it's got a pretty tight turning radius just because it's a small car. And so you can see, of course, I mean, the acceleration is really nothing special. You buy this base engine because of the gas mileage. I think it's rated about 27, 38, something like that. Pretty good gas mileage. I've been reading, though, people have been having a big trouble getting the actual numbers, but like I said, I actually like the design of this vehicle a lot. Hyundai just needs to, you know, work at tuning the car, you know, the car's performance to match the looks. But if you're in the market for something, you know, just a commuter car that looks a lot cooler than everything else, I definitely would recommend the Veloster if you can get over the kind of poor driving dynamics, in my opinion. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all later.